Hey guys, it's Ellie. Welcome back to Bite-Sized Book of Mormon. I'm glad to have you with me. So, if you've never been here before, this is just a podcast where we read through one chapter of the Book of Mormon each episode, and to give a little bit of context, a little bit of insight, a little bit of good times. So, stick around. So, if you remember last episode, we finished off the Book of Alma with Alma chapter 63, which is basically an epilogue to that era of the war chapters. Now, of course, there are more war chapters to continue in the Book of Helaman, which we're going to start today, but it showed that there was once again, finally, peace in the land, and the Nephites were kind of able to be a little bit looser, and finally they were able to explore and spread out, and Hagoth was able to take a bunch of people north and sail off into the ocean to who knows where. And now there are new people in the judgment seat, holding the records, and heading the armies. So the old guard is no more, either retired or dead, and now we begin with the new generation. So yeah, without further ado, let's read Helaman chapter 1. And now behold, it came to pass, in the commencement of the 40th year of the reign of the judges over the people of Nephi, there began to be a serious difficulty among the people of the Nephites. For behold, Pahoran had died, and gone the way of all the earth. Therefore there began to be a serious contention concerning who should have the judgment seat among the brethren, who were the sons of Pahoran. Now these are their names who did contend for the judgment seat, who did cause the people to contend: Pahoran, Ponchi, and Pecumeni. Now these are not all the sons of Pahoran, for he had many, but these are they who did contend for the judgment seat. Therefore they did cause 3 divisions among the people. Nevertheless, it came to pass that Pahoran was appointed by the voice of the people to be chief judge and a governor over the people of Nephi. So, the Book of Helaman starts with a succession crisis. The chief judge is now dead, and his 3 sons, who all of their names start with P for some ungodly reason, I'm just kidding, they are now contending for the judgment seat, and Pahoran takes the democratic vote. And so, at this point in time, democracy is working, the system is well, everything's fine. But there is like 30 more verses in this chapter, so anyways, things are not going to go super smoothly for Pahoran, son of Pahoran, who is now the chief judge of the Nephites. So yeah, prepare for a little bit of chaos, because before we had kingmen, but now we have different types of dissenters within the Nephite civilization. So let's see how wickedness shows itself in this generation of people, as opposed to the older generation. And it came to pass that Pecumeni, when he saw that he could not obtain the judgment seat, he did unite with the voice of the people. But behold, Ponchi, and that part of the people that were desirous that he should be their governor, was exceedingly wroth. Therefore he was about to flatter away those people to rise up in rebellion against their brethren. And it came to pass that as he was about to do this, behold, he was taken, and was tried according to the voice of the people, and condemned unto death, for he had raised up in rebellion, and sought to destroy the liberty of the people. Now, when those people who were desirous that he should be their governor saw that he was condemned unto death, therefore they were angry, and behold, they sent forth one Kishkumen, even to the judgment seat of Pahoran, and murdered Pahoran as he sat upon the judgment seat. And he was pursued by the servants of Pahoran, but behold, so speedy was the flight of Kishkumen that no man could overtake him. So, while the Nephites have struggled with internal conflict before, this is a different type altogether. Because before, there would always be one Kingman faction and one Freeman faction, and the Freeman faction always had the authority in the land because the chief judge was always a Freeman. And so, there was never that huge of an issue. They were always kind of an other. But in this case, all the people of the Nephites were separated into 3 factions, and the head of the government was one of the factions, as opposed to the voice of reason, as they had been before. And so now, they're fighting each other, not necessarily on grounds of freemen and kingmen, but based on who they decided to be loyal to. And so, it's a lot more dangerously fractured than before, because if you remember when Captain Moroni at the very end of Alma took back the city of Zarahemla, the chief judge was kicked out of the land, and the kingman took over. But the chief judge was not part of the problem. The chief judge was part of the solution. But in this case, there is no solution. The voice of the people is doing the best that it can. It condemned one of the people that started a rebellion to death, but that only caused more problems. So there is no voice of reason to lean back on. There is no one with ultimate authority that has the final say, because those with ultimate authority are the ones that are fighting. So this is very dangerous for the Nephites, and also, we're like just a few verses in, there's already been a murder. Kishkumen, who will eventually become very important, kills Pahoran, son of Pahoran, who was on the judgment seat. And so now, there's once again a power vacuum. One son is dead, one son is condemned to death, and the other one is seemingly just kind of mad. Who knows, maybe he was secretly murderous. But anyways, let's see how this develops, because so far, holy crap. And he went unto those that sent him, and they all entered into a covenant, yea, swearing by their everlasting Maker, that they would tell no man that Kishkumen had murdered Pahoran. Therefore Kishkumen was not known among the people of Nephi, for he was in disguise at the time that he murdered Pahoran. And Kishkumen and his band, who had covenanted with him, did mingle themselves among the people, in a manner that they could not be found, but as many as were found were condemned unto death. And now behold, Pechumeni was appointed, according to the voice of the people, to be a chief judge and a governor over the people, to reign in the stead of his brother Pahoran, and it was according to his right. And all this was done in the 40th year of the reign of the judges, and it had an end. And it came to pass in the 41st year of the reign of the judges, that the Lamanites had gathered together an innumerable army of men, and armed them with swords, and with scimitars, and with bows, and with arrows, and with headplates, and with breastplates, and with all manner of shields of every kind. And they came down again, that they might pitch battle against the Nephites. And they were led by a man whose name was Coriantumr, and he was a descendant of Zarahemla, and he was a dissenter from among the Nephites, and he was a large and a mighty man. So, things are only getting worse, right? So Kishkumen, the guy who killed Pahoran on the judgment seat, he has a band of brethren who have all covenanted themselves to secrecy in their own little circle. And they're insidious because they're spreading themselves invisibly among the Nephite population. They cannot be found out, and of course the Nephites do find some of them and they are killed, but ultimately the band of Kishkumen is untraceable. And so previously, again, we had kingmen, we had freemen, people were very vocal about their beliefs. They were very loud, they were very clear. But Kishkumen and his band are taking the secretive route. They're hiding in plain sight. They're hiding behind innocent faces and lies. And disguises also, because Kishkumen was literally wearing a disguise when he killed a guy. So anyways, this is very dangerous. And then, on top of that, there is a massive Lamanite army that is well armored and well armed coming to fight them, led by a Nephite dissenter, who, if you remember correctly, are always more angry against the Nephites than the Lamanites are. Nephite dissenters are almost always the ones to start the battles against the Nephites. It's almost never the Lamanites on their own. So yeah, this is real bad. Therefore, the king of the Lamanites, whose name was Tubaloth, who was the son of Ammoron, supposing that Coriantumr, being a mighty man, could stand against the Nephites with his strength and also with his great wisdom, insomuch that by sending him forth he should gain power over the Nephites. Therefore he did stir them up to anger, and he did gather together his armies, and he did appoint Coriantumr to be their leader, and did cause that they should march down to the land of Zarahemla to battle against the Nephites. And it came to pass that because of so much contention and so much difficulty in the government, that they had not kept sufficient guards in the land of Zarahemla, for they had supposed that the Lamanites durst not come into the heart of their lands to attack that great city Zarahemla. But it came to pass that Coriantumr did march forth at the head of his numerous host, and came upon the inhabitants of the city, and their march was with such exceedingly great speed, that there was no time for the Nephites to gather together their armies. Therefore Coriantumr did cut down the watch by the entrance of the city, and did march forth with his whole army into the city, and they did slay every one who did oppose them, insomuch that they did take possession of the whole city. So the Zarahemlite government was fractured beyond saving, and then a massive army, again well-armored, well-armed, came straight into the Nephite lands and basically lanced it in the heart, walked right through the front doors of their capital city, and murdered everyone that opposed them. So this is perhaps the worst thing ever? This is really bad. And I think that it speaks to how Satan is not above anything. The reason that Zarahemla wasn't that well guarded is because it's in the middle of their lands. The Lamanites would have to be so bold and so brash to go straight to their capital city that the Nephites didn't even assume they would try. But if you know anything about Satan and those that follow him, they are not above anything. And Satan, or rather Coriantumr leading the Lamanite army, took the opportunity when they were preoccupied with their crippled government. So yeah, Zarahemla has been taken over in several different ways, and it's not even the end of the first chapter of Helaman. So, yeah. This era of the war chapters is going to be a lot more insidious and a lot more intense than the previous section found in Alma. So anyways, how are they going to deal with this? The capital city is now taken over completely by very dangerous Lamanites, and there's a secret band of murderers around. Oh my gosh. And it came to pass that Pecumeni, who was the chief judge, did flee before Coriantumr even to the walls of the city. And it came to pass that Coriantumr did smite him against the wall, insomuch that he died. And thus ended the days of Pecumeni. And now when Coriantumr saw that he was in possession of the city of Zarahemla, and saw that the Nephites had fled before them, and were slain, and were taken, and were cast into prison, and that he had obtained the possession of the strongest hold in all the land, his heart took courage, insomuch that he was about to go forth against all the land. And now he did not tarry in the land of Zarahemla, but he did march forth with a large army, even towards the city of Bountiful, for it was his determination to go forth and cut his way through with the sword, that he might obtain the north parts of the land. And supposing that their greatest strength was in the center of the land, therefore he did march forth, giving them no time to assemble themselves together, save it were in small bodies, and in this manner they did fall upon them and cut them down to the earth. But behold, this march of Coriantumr through the center of the land gave Moronihah great advantage over them, notwithstanding the greatness of the number of the Nephites who were slain. For behold, Moronihah had supposed that the Lamanites durst not come into the center of the land, but that they would attack the cities round about in the borders as they had hitherto done. Therefore, Moronihah had caused that their strong armies should maintain those parts round about by the borders. But behold, the Lamanites were not frightened according to his desire, but they had come into the center of the land, and had taken the capital city, which was the city of Zarahemla, and were marching through the most capital parts of the land, slaying the people with a great slaughter, both men, women, and children, taking possession of many cities and many strongholds. So what made this army so extremely deadly and so effective was not only their brash boldness by going straight to the heart of Zarahemla, and not only the fact that Zarahemla was already a wreck when they got to it, but also they go with unrelenting speed. They don't allow the Nephites any time to prepare. Any type of war etiquette, whatever form it came in among the Nephites and Lamanites, is out the window. They are going forth with undeviating exactness to murder everyone in their path. And they will not stop to let the Nephites get their armies together, to be fair in any sort of sense. So when it comes to defending yourselves against threats like this, we just have to put fortifications around our center. What is our foundation? What is the base of our testimony? We can't just take that for granted. We can't assume that it's the other things that are going to get challenged. But we have to be prepared for the fact that the very foundation of our testimony might be challenged. We need to prepare ourselves against that. We need to learn and study and pray to understand better the foundation that we build our faith on, so that it can't be taken over so quickly like Zarahemla was. Because yes, Satan does go for the branches of your tree of faith. Yes, he attacks you in the borders of the land, but sometimes he goes straight for the heart. Sometimes he rips out your roots completely, and we need to be ready for that. But when Moronihah had discovered this, he immediately sent forth Lehi with an army round about to head them before they should come to the land bountiful. And thus he did, and he did head them before they came to the land bountiful, and gave unto them battle, insomuch that they began to retreat back towards the land of Zarahemla. And it came to pass that Moronihah did head them in their retreat, and did give unto them battle, insomuch that it became an exceedingly bloody battle. Yea, many were slain, and among the number who were slain, Coriantumr was also found. And now behold, the Lamanites could not retreat either way, neither on the north nor on the south, nor on the east nor on the west, for they were surrounded on every hand by the Nephites. And thus had Coriantumr plunged the Lamanites into the midst of the Nephites, insomuch that they were in the power of the Nephites, and he himself was slain, and the Lamanites did yield themselves into the hands of the Nephites. And it came to pass that Moronihah took possession of the city of Zarahemla again, and caused that the Lamanites who had been taken prisoners should depart out of the land in peace. And thus ended the 41st year of the reign of the judges. I feel so bad for anybody who lived in Zarahemla or the surrounding cities in this time. Because, oh my gosh, there was an insane succession crisis which happened right at the beginning of the chapter. Pecumeni was killed, Ponchi was killed, Pahorn was killed. There is an invisible, murderous group somewhere in the city led by Kishkumen, and there is this extremely dangerous army that is attacking them right at the heart of their lands. And the only reason that Moronihah is able to kind of catch up and give real battle to this army is because that city that he was in was a border city, and he was actually ready to fight. His armies were there, his fortifications were there. And so it was only once the army reached a branch of this allegorical testimony that they were finally able to fight back, because this allegorical person, that is the Nephite lands, was prepared in that area. And so once the rot got there, they were ready. Even though their foundations were essentially ripped out from under them, that army is no longer a threat. So now, next chapter, the land of Zarahemla and the Nephite lands as a whole have a lot of healing to do. And of course, it's not going to go away. The group led by Kishkumen is still secretly in the city, and they are going to continue to murder and to sow chaos and disorder among the Nephites. But the Lamanite army that did so much damage so quickly is gone. This chapter happened over the course of 1 year. Oh my gosh. What a horrible, horrible year for the Nephites. Jeez. So the standout verse for this chapter is going to be verse 33, which says, "And it came to pass that Moronihah took possession of the city of Zarahemla again, and caused that the Lamanites who had been taken prisoners should depart out of the land in peace." So it seems that the Nephites were able to take some Lamanite prisoners. Maybe it was from the battle that Moronihah had with them, or maybe it was from when they initially came into Zarahemla. There was actually a little bit of a fight put up. Who knows? But regardless, I think Moronihah had every reason to kill these Lamanites. Even though they were prisoners, their group just murdered so many men, women, and children of the Nephites viciously and without reserve. And yet Moronihah, when given the opportunity, when handed Lamanites on a silver platter, he lets them return to their lands in peace. If that is not the legacy of Captain Moroni, I don't know what is. He maintained mercy even when they were stressed to a point that Zarahemla and the Nephites as a whole have never been stressed. The Nephites have never struggled this much in the span of 1 year. I don't think that's a very hard claim to back up, because holy crap. And yet, Moronihah, at the end of it all, finally standing on top, having wrested power away from Coriantumr, chooses peace. Maybe he doesn't forgive them, but he does let them go without killing them, which is kind of wild, because the tone of this entire chapter has just been bad, right? Like, things are failing left and right, people are dying, armies are attacking, cities are falling, and the second to last verse, finally, when things quiet down a little bit, Moronihah makes his difficult choice. And it's the right one, I would say, because they're only fighting back to defend themselves. They are not ones for senseless violence. Anyways, I just love that reminder that the Nephites aren't in it for the blood. The Nephites aren't in it for revenge or anger or hatred. They just want to live their life. Hagoth just wants to go sail the ocean blue, you know? Anyways, what a chapter. This is an insane section to read. Oh my goodness. So yeah, that was the episode for today. I hope you enjoyed, because holy crap, that was like an action movie. That was insane. But yeah, there's just a few links down in the show notes that I want to let you know about. The first one is a Let Me Know Where I Learn link, and if that one doesn't work, because sometimes it doesn't, you can go ahead and either email me or DM me on Instagram. Either way. Next, there are a handful of links to access a digital copy of the Book of Mormon, so if you want to read along, or find a chapter, or make a study plan, you can go ahead and click those there. Next, there's a quick support the show link, so if you like what I do and you want to support me, that's how you do it, and whatever you give will be greatly appreciated. Next, we're on YouTube, so if you're not already watching on YouTube, you can go ahead and subscribe to that channel to both find the podcast there twice a week, and also find some YouTube shorts that I make. It's a very good time. And finally, we are on Instagram, so if you want to follow me where I'm the most active, you can go ahead and follow me there. I post a lot on my story, I post a lot of reels, and all in all, it's lovely. So yeah, I'll see you there. But yeah, I think that's all I've got for you today. I'll talk to you later. Bye.